good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is wealth. What night is it tonight? It is Monday night, and it is time for Couch Conversations with the Doctors. As always, we're going to go around introducing our esteemed panel guests who are here with us on this evening, starting with the man who is an art connoisseur, and that's our very own Joe Harrington. Joe?
Thank you, Nikki. I'll begin by saying I'm the same person I was the last time we did this, and my background is still the same. I work mostly in public health and healthcare, but did some work in mental health and education as well. Retired in 2017 from the Illinois Department of Public Health, where I was the regional health officer for Cook County and an administrative law judge.
Outstanding, and thank you so very much. Well, to the man who says I threaten him to be here every Monday night, but he seems to always be on time, that's our very own Dr. James Miller. Dr. Miller?
Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks to Nikki and Congressman Davis for this platform that allows us to come and to discuss issues that are of concern for our community, and hopefully provide information that can be healing to our community. My name is James Miller. I'm a retired internal medicine physician, retired in 2019. Though I don't spend a lot of time practicing clinical medicine, I'm still doing what I heal the community. As we go from day to day and encounter the issues and problems that affect the people of our community, we try to do what we can to contribute to the healing as opposed to creating and leaving unsolved the problem that does exist. So that's my platform.
And I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Tony Hampton. I'm a family doctor on the south side of Chicago. I focus on metabolic health, obesity, and anything that'll help people stay away from medicines, away from doctors like me, and hopefully live a long, healthy life with food as their primary source of movement, less stress, more sleep. So always happy to be here with the group to discuss health topics. Is what we do and what we love. Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Hampton. That's our guru physician on weight loss, our Wolfgang Puck of the kitchen. To one of our special guests, we have two special guests that is going to be on with us on this evening, and I think they just had a little internet glitch, and that's our very own State Rep Camille Lilly. State Rep Lilly, our fashion diva of the state of Illinois. Why don't you introduce yourself? You're muted.
There you go.
And driving.
Yep. I think we're good now. We can hear you now. Oops, got muted again. Yeah, it looks like she's still muted. I don't know if we can unmute her, but we may have to circle back, Nikki. And you're muted too, so maybe we can let the congressman.
Okay, so I'm trying to help you unmute from this side, Camille. Because it muted itself back, we'll come back to you. Well, to the man who makes this possible for us each and every Monday night, to the one who teaches us that true health is our health. That's our very own Congressman of the Illinois 7th Congressional District, Congressman Danny K. Davis. Congressman?
Well, let me thank all of us for being here, and let me thank us for having this discussion. While neither one of our special guests are physicians, they are both well formally educated in terms of training. Of course, LaShawn Ford is a former public school teacher, which means that he had to go to college and learn something. I don't know exactly what, but he had to learn something to get a degree and then to get a master's and become a businessman. So he knows something about this business. And of course, many people don't know that Camille Lilly is seriously trained in health in
Mhm.
terms of having earned a master's degree in public health after having earned her doctorate, I mean, her bachelor's degree. So she is kind of steeped in health. And actually, when it's not in the legislature, you can find her over at Loretta Hospital being in charge of their public engagement. And what that really means is that health is so broad and so impactful, and there are so many ways to describe it, and it has such a high level of importance, and it takes a lot of our money. Most of us spend at least 20% of whatever it is that we earn on health care. And so if you consider families, I spend about that much on nobody but myself. And so if you think of individuals who may have 5 or 6 people in their family, or they got 4 or 5 children, my Lord, they spend an awful lot of whatever they earn, no matter what their profession may be. So, all of those things are considerations when we look for health status. And a community can't have a health status unless you're looking at more than one person or 2 or 3 people. You are talking about the status of health in that whole area, whatever the area is. So I see that Representative Camille Lilly is back, and yeah, she's smiling. So that means that she may have heard us, and so now we'll just go directly to her in terms of an introduction, and then I'm sure we've all got some questions we'd like to ask.
Well, thank you, Congressman, and thank you for having your Monday couch conversations around a vast subject. And today, health is critical. I'm State Representative Camille Lilly of the 78th District. I'm happy to be here to be a part of the discussion. I am part of the leadership team here in the state of Illinois House of Representatives. I'm Assistant Majority Leader, which basically means I have more meeting and more ears to make things happen on behalf of the citizens of Illinois. With that, I am part of the conversation. I have had the opportunity to serve the 78th District for the past 16 years and looking forward to doing at least 2 more. With
Can I
that,
ask the first question?
yes.
How did you decide to make health a background of yours? How did you decide to get into health?
I want to say thank you, Congressman, for the question. And you have been a mentor of mine since I was a little tot. I've always been 5'8", but have not always been as old as I am. But with that, I often, when a young person, they're like, what do you would like to be when you grow up? And I actually wanted to be a healthcare provider. I thought about a doctor. I thought about a nurse, and those professions just was not part of what I felt comfortable with. But when I got to undergrad and learned of the management of hospitals, I said that's something I would be very much interested in. And learning more about the business of healthcare, public health was a key concern. I have said for many years that if you don't have your health, you don't have much else. today I say if you don't have your mental health, it's very challenging for you to manage your overall health. So as a young person, I just knew if our health was well, we could do anything. But if our health was not available to us, it was challenging. So I went forth working in healthcare administration at Loretto Hospital, which is a community hospital, which are very key to everyone's health. Community hospitals make a difference for access. And as I've been doing that for over 30 years, um, I am here today as an elected official to ensure that everyone has access. So I've always wanted to help people feel their best, and here I am.
All right, thank you. I've had my shot, so Nikki, I'm back to you.
Nikki, you're muted if you want me to
Yes,
just kind
sir.
of continue the conversation. I think I'll just say the following. When I think about being healthy and what that means as a doctor, as a human being, it's about being able to function in the world we live in, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, and also socially, because if I'm healthy, I can hang out with my future grandkids that don't have any yet. I can have the energy to come home after a long day and be with my family, be with my wife. And my body has the capacity to make all those things happen. So your energy is important. Your ability to repair and heal your body, which it does every night when you go to sleep. My ability to, fend myself away from threats and to handle stress. All of these things are, to me, part of what being healthy is all about. It's also about, having a lifespan and a health span that match each other, so that when I get a little bit older, when I catch up with my peers, catch up with our congressman, I'll be able to do the things that I see the congressman doing, because I'm still perplexed by his ability to hang out with us on his platform with Nikki at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. If I was, most people I know that's his age are being tucked into bed by somebody by now. So when you have a good health span, you're able to do things that maybe the average person shouldn't do. I would also argue that the congressman is what it should look like. And what you see with our other folk who are not doing well, that's not normal. It's normal to do what the congressman is doing. Unfortunately, he's an outlier. And I think we need to do better. So I just think that what I do in my world is to make sure people understand when you're trying to be healthy, you need to put the right food in front of you so you can have the foundation. You're not hanging out with the processed food. You're prioritizing things like protein, which are the building blocks of your ligaments, tissues, and muscles. You're not eating a lot of added sugar. You're not eating a lot of processed food. And your blood sugars are stable. They're not like a roller coaster. You're getting enough sleep. You're managing your stress. And more importantly, you're moving your body. So being healthy, in my opinion, and I'll let my colleagues speak after I say this. I normally work out on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And I have an important meeting Tuesday evening. So I moved some of my evening patients for tomorrow up to Tuesday morning. So instead of starting at 10, I start at 8. So I can't work out on Tuesday. So what do you do in a moment like that? Well, you call the trainer and say, hey, are you free on Monday morning or Wednesday morning? And you get up early. So I got up early Monday morning and went to the trainer at 6 in the morning. So if you ask me the question, did I want to go see the trainer at 6 in the morning? What would I say? I don't want to say anything profane on this platform, but the answer was no, no. But this is a big but. But I'm gonna tell you something, guys. When I walked into that cold air and met with my trainer, although I didn't want to be there, I was proud of myself for being there. And then I said to myself, in order to be successful in life, you have to do hard things, right? So after I suffered through the training session, and it was a little short so I could be at work on time, I walked out of there proud of myself. But the most important message I'll say, and I learned this from other people who are older who train there, who look like they are much younger because they do this, it's never going to be easy to do the things that are going to keep you around. So you have to say to yourself, if I want to, I'm either going to have a hard thing to deal with later in life, or I'm going to have a hard thing to deal with today. Now, I would argue the hard thing of moving your body and eating right and getting enough sleep and having less stress is an easier hard than the hard of having chronic health conditions that will not allow you to be the grandparent or parent you want to be, not allow you to have the energy to, be on a call like this, like our congressman, it's between 7 and 8 at night. So I think that's the hard I want to encourage everybody else to do. If you do that hard, that's a much easier sacrifice than the hard that comes from being chronically ill. So I want people to understand, we have to do the same thing you have to do. And we just have to decide to do the same thing that we have to do to be successful. So I want to say that because it's hard. It's never easy for the doctor, and it's not going to be easy for you, but the reward's going to be pretty amazing. So I concede to my colleagues.
Yeah, if I can, I want to offer up, and the last time I was here, I offered up a definition of health that I heard years ago, and it's described as a behavioral, cultural, economic, educational, physical, and spiritual state of being in which individuals have the ability to enjoy life and contribute positively to their family, community, and society. So if you don't have those things, you're really not healthy. And those of you that don't have all three probably know, because you're not feeling good. The other thing, and as I was listening to Dr. Tony, is the importance, and he can speak to this, and others can as well, this whole idea of mind, body, and spirit, which really talks about a more holistic approach to our health. Because sometimes we focus on one and not the other. Because a lot of times what we focus on is those things that are bothering us physically. You got pain. If you got pain, it's hard to function. It's hard to do anything. If you hurt somewhere, you got to focus on that. But the important thing too is you really need to focus on not only your body and your physical health, but as Dr. Tony pointed out, you got to eat a healthy, nutritious diet. You got to stay physically active, but you also have to be mentally strong, and particularly in a world like we live in today, just fast paced and hectic. If you're not mentally strong, everything else is going to fall apart and go to the wayside. So again, that mind, body, spirit connection is really good. And people would think of that as holistic health. So you have to be healthy in mind, have to be healthy in body, and have to be healthy in spirit.
Okay, I'd like to just jump in and add a few comments. And so I'm going to start out by saying, um, most things in life that is worth something, they usually require some kind of investment on the part of the person that receives it. Now, you can oftentimes, my parents used to say to me that things that are not worth anything, usually you don't have to pay anything for them, and that they'll come to you whether you're looking for them or not. However, those things that are worth having and things that are going to add to the quality of life and add to your well-being usually require some input, some work, something on your part. And so health is one of those things that most people probably desire, but also you got to understand that it's not just wanting it, but you got to also put in the work. Just like someone want to be a teacher or a lawyer, it requires putting in the work. Otherwise, you'll never get to those desires. And so this thing called health is something that it affects every person in one way or another, depending on what you do with it. And pretty much the best time to work on your health is before you get these chronic illness, because then it becomes a little bit more difficult before you get too old, because it becomes, as you get older, your ability to do things decreases. So if you develop certain habits while you're younger, it's a lot easier to go to carry those things on. And so, as we look today at our community, and we look at all the healthcare problem that exists, and one of the other things that is so that we hear so much about is cost, healthcare cost is continuing to go up, and even saying that we can't afford it. So if we can't afford to pay for healthcare costs, that means there has to be, so we have to figure out how can we then lower that cost. We're not going to lower it if more people are getting ill, more people have more chronic diseases that cost for maintaining. So it'd be to all of our benefits to do what we can to make certain that we are not contributing to the cost, but we are contributing to staying healthy. And so there are things that you can receive from your doctor, but there are things that you can receive by investing yourself into making yourself healthier. Dr. Tony talked about what you eat. We are what we eat, and so if you eat the things that are going to damage you and cause you to have problems, then that's going to be a consequence. When we eat things that are healthy for us, things that are going to build our bodies and help us to stay healthy, then that would be a good consequence. And so we have to look at it at life in terms of those things. Those things that we want is going to require something from us, and so health is no different than that. And as I look at one of the things, I guess that that I've always been bothered by, and actually, I guess to some extent, it had a lot to do with why I went into why I became a physician in the first place, is the suffering of the people of my community and the lack of proper and available care for a lot of the people in my community. And so those are things that I saw when I was younger that really, because I mean, that medicine was not, when I was, say, in high school, medicine really was not my main desire to do for life. But as I began to grow and begin to understand the need, it became important to me to do what I can to meet some of those needs. And I found that I would probably be better able if I, developed some expertise and some knowledge and were able to do something to help make my community and my people, my family, my friends, and those other folks that I was concerned about healthier. And so it's important that we do make those investment in ourselves as well as other people that are making those investments. You go to your physician. Generally, your physician is concerned about you. And he's not there just because you pay your healthcare bill, but he went into that because he or she has a desire to make people feel better and make people healthier. So, make certain that you take full advantage of that, because that's important as you grow.
We thank you. Before I
We
even say
definitely want to
anything,
say to Mandy. Can you guys hear me? Can you all hear me?
kind of in and out on my end.
So we want to say, okay. So we want to say hey to Mandy Mohammed, who is here. He says he's watching and listening here in Chicago. Jay Cox is here, and she said good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Dorothy Murphy is here, and she said good evening to everyone as well. Jack Higgs is here, saying good evening to everyone that is here with us. With just
Your audio is breaking up, Nikki. So we're having trouble hearing you.
Yeah, it's tough. If I can and make a statement, and we have our another distinguished guest with us, Representative LaShawn K. Ford. Want to welcome him in, and then I like to make a statement if he's heard, and then he can introduce himself and sort of respond to our topic as we talked about. Dr. Miller and even Dr. Hampton, you all talked about how healthcare really is a crucial. It's crucial because it improves or it affects the quality of life. Healthcare is important because it promotes longevity, quality of life, that kind of thing. And so, but Dr. Miller, you said something that if y'all don't mind me sort of take a slight switch to another lane, but yet on topic. You talking about you got into medicine because you saw the suffering and issues amongst your people and what have you. And so, as it relates to healthcare, I think we all know, and we've talked about it, how in the Black community, how healthcare has been defined, by consistent disparities, right? And it has, excuse me, you know, in many ways rooted in structural racism, economic inequality, unequal access to quality care, things of that nature. And so, if I could just sort of throw the ball a little bit to Representative Ford's way, what is happening? What is Illinois? What is currently the state of Illinois? And you can introduce yourself and respond accordingly.
Pastor, it's so good to see everyone here. And that is like the softball that I needed. You would think that this was planned because my comments tonight is specifically to that. Let me thank Congressman Danny K. Davis for having the vision to have staff that understands how to make sure that these type of communications go on. So, Nikki, thank you. And I think of this platform and I think of Dennis Deere. Dennis Deere is somebody that we have to remember when we have these kind of conversations because he believed that what you eat is your health. And then I think about Joseph, that's been a strong healthcare advocate. May not be a doctor, but he teaches you how to work with doctors and listen to doctors. And then, Pastor, you have the ability to work with mind, body, and spirit. Thank you. But to have two Black doctors is what we need. I mean, what the state is doing, I chair higher ed appropriations, and we want to grow doctors. We want to grow doctors, and we want to grow Black doctors because, and President Obama in his Affordable Care Act, he had funding for healthcare professionals. And of course, this administration is doing everything it can to roll all that back. So it's a big honor to have two Black doctors on. I mean, we need Black doctors because the healthcare system that we have, I don't think it truly understands how to address the diversity of health needs in all individuals. And so that's why when you have Black doctors here and we have a platform where people could actually join to recognize that race and ethnicity is significantly influenced by health outcomes. And for Black doctors to be able to talk about it is essential. And so thank you very much. And so politically, we have to do everything that we can to make sure healthcare policies and practices are designed to combat health disparities and promote equity and access to care and ensure that every person receives the culturally competent support that they need for the well-being. And that includes by making sure that we prioritize inclusive approaches to healthcare. And we can create a system that fosters health for everyone, regardless to their race and ethnic background, if we have more Black professionals. And I would tell you that it's so important to have Black people in the room because we just had, and I talked to Congressman Davis about a very special person in my life that was at Rush Hospital. It's my daughter's mother, and she was struggling with respiratory problems. And it was all white doctors. And let me tell you, we got to get Black people in that room. We had two Black nurses in that room that fought for our loved one. they actually pushed back. Now, doctors, I'm gonna tell you, if you guys were in the room, you would have saw um, our loved one in a special way. These black nurses actually understood my daughter's struggle and my struggle, that we had a loved one on that bed on actually life support. And they fought to make sure that she was transferred from Rush Oak Park to Rush with all the care that they had to give her. These black nurses actually said, it was a male and it was a female. They fought all night to make sure that she got the care that she needed. And they said, we got to get her out of here. She needs to go to Rush downtown because they got everything that she needs there. And they fought because I believe that they saw two black people that loved the person that was on their dying bed. I'm telling you, I hate to say that the white people didn't understand it, but I'm going to tell you, the black nurses fought for that black woman that was on that bed. And when she got to Rush downtown, the white doctor said, we're so glad that she got here when she did, because if she hadn't got here, she would have died. So we have to have black people in the room. It's so important. So thank you for being in the room. And I know that there's a political belief that we need people in the room. If you read Hamilton, and you know that they talk about being in the room, we need doctors in the room. We need medical professionals in the room to protect us and to make sure that we are respected and have doctors that understand how important it is to recognize that black health is different than white health. And finally, I would say, I actually am a survivor of prostate cancer. And I actually had prostate cancer probably in my, thank you, Pastor, in my 40s.
Mm.
And I didn't get diagnosed until I was in my late 40s. And that was because I actually advocated for myself to be tested for my prostate and colonoscopy. And the white Western medicine said that you probably should not be tested for your prostate cancer until you're 55. They've reduced it since to say that now that black people should actually be tested at 40 for prostate. But that, just think about how many black men have died from prostate cancer because of, can't say malpractice, but because of research that didn't include us.
Mm.
So I think that making sure that we have competent, racially competent, ethnically competent people in healthcare is so important to reducing and ending the disparity in healthcare and life expectancy in black communities. I don't know if this is about black people, but that's what I wanted to talk about.
Not a bad subject.
Well, it is now for sure, but yeah, of
Right.
course it is. We're gonna always want to touch on disparities, and I just want to make sure those who are not aware that we're talking about 5% of the doctors in America are African American, and that number should be more aligned with the population. So at minimally 12, 13, 14% of the doctors should be of color. And that's, as was, well articulated by our representative, how do you trust someone if you can't feel that you understand where they're coming from? How can you better communicate with them if you don't understand their culture, their community? How do you make sure that outcomes and quality of care match in a way that it should? Because sometimes we kind of give them, we don't give them the advantage of that higher level of care. And it may be because we don't care as much about them. We may not be bad people, but we tend to care about people we believe we understand better. So that bias that's kind of baked into the system is continuing to be in front of us because the representative just said that, well, the research is not including us. I mean, something as simple as a pulse oximetry, when it was when the research was done, was not done in people of color. So they found out later that the melanocytes in your skin affect the reading. So now we have a machine that looks at your oxygen saturation that's not accurate for people of color because they didn't research it enough. So we have to work towards fixing that. That's why having our leaders on this live stream is so important. So I'll stop talking there, and I don't know if Camille, you want to
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to.
Oh,
go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, would you tell people what a pulse oximeter is? Sometimes we
Absolutely.
talk in terms that people don't actually
I'm
understand.
sorry, I
And so you
forget.
may want to break down what you said to
Yeah,
the lay audience.
yeah, to the lay folks.
I
Well,
know
real
what you're
quick.
talking about.
Amen.
But there are probably people that they said, "Oh yeah, that sounds heavy."
That's right. That sounds right. It sounds smart, right? Yeah. So when you come in and you get your vitals, you always get your blood pressure, your heart rate, your respiratory rate, your temperature, and the last thing is you get the amount of oxygen saturation that's occurring in your blood. And that's really important because if a person has a normal saturation, let's just say, somewhere between 95 and 100, we worry less. But if a person comes in and you think they're okay, but then their saturation is like 88, they can deteriorate quite quickly. So, and so it's really important that measurement is accurate. We pretty much do it on everybody that comes through the door, but it's particularly important for people who come in with respiratory complaints. So with that
was big during COVID, wasn't it?
Exactly.
You studied
That was
during
exactly.
COVID. Yeah.
That was really the key factor that determined whether or not you were going to be admitted to the hospital or not. I mean, because you can appear better than you are, but the pulse ox will be low, or you'll look sicker than you are, and the pulse ox will be okay. So so that number really matters. But Camille, why don't you go ahead?
Let me ask this question, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
LaShawn and I happened to be at the Apostolic Church on Sunday, and the bishop, doctor, made the comment that there were no more African American males in medical school now, today, than there were when he was in medical school, which was more than 20 years ago. Can anyone address what might be part of the why of that? That one would think there would be more.
Well, I think there's several causes for that. One of the causes is that the type of education that is provided. Another cause is that sometimes it's what you see, who you see, that helps determine what you want to be in life. And if our young people are not seeing people that look like them that are being doctors, then their tendency to want to do that, unless something else happened in their life, oftentimes is people tend to look. If we just go out in the street today, we ask most kids what they want to be. They probably want to be either football player, basketball player, because those are the people that they see in favorable position on the TV screen and wherever. And so in our community, when our people oftentimes seek health care, it's often provided by someone that does not look like them. And I'm going to just tell you, early in my practice, I had a situation where I had a patient come in, and it was a young person, a young man. And so I walked in the room, my lab jacket on with my name on it, Dr. James Miller. And so the young man said to me, he says, when is the doctor coming in? So I said, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I said, I'm Dr. James Miller. He said, yeah, but when is the real doctor coming? So we had a discussion, And he was talking about what he was used to seeing. He was used to seeing somebody other than black people. He said, "But you black." I said, "Yeah, but I'm also a doctor." So what I'm saying is that it is important that our young people, and this guy was maybe in his teens, so, I don't remember the exact age, but he's a teenager. And so it's important that our young people see people that look like them, and that can be a motivating factor in terms of getting them to start thinking about doing that. We all know about the issues and the need. The need is great, but the supply is very slim. And we really, really, I mean, that's to me, that's something that I really, I'm actually trying to do some things in terms of working on that, because we can't wait till kids get to be in high school to start to trying to guide them in a direction of going into whatever it is that they want to go into. But at least introducing them at an age when, before they start to get into other things, before they start getting into trouble, and start mentoring them and being available to them. It is important that they see people like them doing those kinds of things, and I think that's a big issue, I believe, in our community. And also, if in your school, nobody is talking about doctors and lawyers and people like that as being an opportunity that you should look to pursuing, then it just doesn't happen. Uh, but I think that so those are reason for it, and I think that we have to really do something about those things that we're falling short on. And they can, the thing that we need to do is be more available, be there, and start mentoring these young people, uh, being available to them to have discussions so that they can see, okay, that's a person that look like me. Okay, I might want to, I can think about possibly being a doctor. If it's something that does fit with their likes and their planning for their future.
If I could dive in real quick to your
Yeah.
point, Dr. Miller and Dr. Hampton, and maybe Sister Camille, LaShawn, or even Congressman can really address it. Something I am acclimating myself more into, and maybe our listeners can get engaged, is a thing called health justice. Dr. Hampton, when you were talking about, and both of y'all talking about seeing, um, more African Americans in the hospital room or in schools. We know that just recently the president downgraded the nursing profession, declaring it as a non-professional uh, line of work, right? And so, as we talk about what can we do to help remove these disparities or these barriers, right? Um, you know, Understanding catching that kind of thing, because again, in his words, he makes it more unattractive, which means, as you talk about Dr. Miller, Dr. Hampton, there may be less men and women who will want to go into those fields because they're hearing all this rhetoric. And of course, it limits loans that can be made for them to go to school, to medical school, things of that nature. And so maybe I represent. So how can we remove the barriers? Um, you know, Again, health justice is what I'm becoming more acclimated about, concerning our disparities, concerning this absence of Black men or even just African Americans in medicine. Maybe our distinguished guests can sort of address that. And I just want to close it quickly because, so they can have a chance to address that.
Well, the couple things that I would add. One, as a academic of public health, I received my master's from Oklahoma University, where I have a master's in public health. And what I learned there and since then is that historically we had over 20 medical schools, medical school in America, educating and training up our young Black medical schools that young Black can enter into. However, Americans asked the Europeans over in London to come over and to evaluate our healthcare system and our medical schools. And they came over and shut down more than half of our
Mm.
medical schools,
Mm.
saying that they were not qualified. And so we only had 3 to 4 left that our students can apply to and get into. And since then, in the 20th century, the 21st century, we're not enrolling Black Americans into the medical schools. One, they're not getting the academical grades, and two, the cost factor.
Mhm.
So when you ask the question, Congressman, why we don't have black males, let alone black people in medical schools, is one, they reduced the number of schools that were educating black physicians, and two, they created the barriers from cost and admitting them.
Mm.
So so therefore we will not have numbers going up. We're blessed to have the numbers that we have sustained.
Mm.
And that sustainability has come from advocacy from you, Congressman Davis, and you, Representative Ford, that says we must educate Black Americans who seek to be doctors in our country. And I want to thank Dr. Miller and Dr. Hampson for stepping into that space all these years and these recent years to treat people without bias. The Black Caucus here in the state of Illinois created pillars, and one of our pillars is health and human services. And one of our policies within that pillar is to reduce the biases that exist within the healthcare system systemically.
Mhm.
And we are fighting to educate doctors on a daily basis of why they are biased. And half of them don't understand that they're biased. So, as Representative Ford has expressed through his experiences, it's just a bias. They just don't understand. So, we're sending them here in the state of Illinois, sending them back to school every
Right.
year to train up on why they are biased. The other piece that is very clear to me after going to the University of Northwestern to get my MBA, to learn the business in their mind of healthcare, it has created the disparity and it has maintained the systemic racism that exists in our society. And with that understanding, I have been able to say everyone deserves access to healthcare, every single American. And when you don't have access to health care, the most vulnerable people are at risk. And the Black Americans have been dying at a faster rate because lack of access. Community hospitals have made a difference in our Illinois. And we have to continue to fight to maintain them because that becomes a public health issue when they are closed. Public health is key to better health outcomes. And I know Dr. Hampton and Dr. Miller believe and understand that. If you don't get education around health, you don't get access to preventive health, if you don't get access to health, you will not survive. And if you have clinicians and doctors who understand what your health indicators are because of health disparities, because of oppression, because of inequities, your health is at risk and you are at risk. So what we do with in Illinois with all of our pillars, we have 4 pillars in the state of Illinois to really improve the systemic issues that have been in our country for decades, from education, from what I call social justice, but we most of all we talk about criminal justice, the economics, the access to economics that we don't have, all play into your health and wellness here in the state of Illinois to any citizen. But when you're vulnerable, as we are as Black Americans, you will see the statistics stating over and over again we're dying at a faster rate. So this conversation, Congressman Davis, is very poignant to how we sustain the wealth, and not only the wealth, but the health of our communities and our culture. And when we are having these conversations, we can prioritize what we want to work on. And I believe through the Illinois pillar, the health and human service pillar, we as a body, meaning this conversation, can put forth policy that's going to change the trajectory of access. Community hospitals are key to access. Physicians that look like me when I go to the doctor will change health outcomes. And advocates like Congressman Davis, Representative Ford, and myself are the key to the ensuring that these things come about. So let's get ready to work together, doctors, to create what I want to do. I want to create a Black American health plan, because our health disparities, or our health indicators are different from other groups of people. But they want us to be managed by the insurance health plan, which is killing us.
Mm.
We, as Representative Ford indicated, if we're not tested for prostate cancer in our 40s, meaning the Black male, we are going to die, because
Mm.
our health issues based on our living conditions they will impact that. So we need our own health insurance plan, period.
Mm.
And policy can make that happen. And I love to work with you doctors to come up with that type of plan that create a health plan that creates better health outcomes. And I'll end there.
Love it.
That's
If I
and
could,
Leader Lilly always says, if you don't have your health, you don't have much at all. And I just want to build on, I know you're going to close out, but I do want to build on what Leader Lilly has said, and go to not only when you talk about health disparities in the medical field, but you have to have some type of disparities in admissions in our medical schools and in testing, and to ability to matriculate in this profession. Where is that? I mean, in the conversation, is that a problem where you talk about these standardized tests, the ability to pass the boards? Where do we fight that? Because we know that we have what you call systemic racism that Leader Lilly's been fighting, and where do we tackle that problem?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we see it in every profession. We have lawyers that can't get their pass the bar. We have teachers that can't pass the final teacher's exam. Every profession, and this is no different. How do we tackle that?
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, well, the tests are the tests are made up by a certain group of people, and whatever their bias is, whatever they feel is most important in terms of what should be the test question should be, that's what's going to be on the test. And so we need to be represented. We need to be represented there. Well, that that we're designing, that we're also having our input in terms of what the questions are, so that the questions are also culturally sensitive. Some things just the way that they might be, despite your educational levels and accomplishment, still some cultural things that may or may not occur can affect how you answer a question. And so I think that making certain that we do have representative in every aspect of whatever it is that we're doing, whether we're talking about medicine as physicians or lawyers or teachers or any profession, we need to have input into that. Even in our schools, the tests that in grade school that our kids get, who's making up those tests? Where's the biases in that? And where are the things that represent their culture or background, and the lack of, and what are they being taught, the things that would make them feel good about who they are, and not things that make them feel bad. I mean, we've all, seen the thing with the dolls and the black kids and the white kids, and how they respond to which one is pretty and which one is desirable. So I mean, these are there's a lot of things that we have to deal with to change some of the behavior.
Yeah. Bias is baked into the system, guys. And if I were to just share really briefly how true that is, my youngest son was, I think he had an easier time getting into Washington University of St. Louis because his brother went there. So this legacy thing is a real thing, and it's something that we have to be honest about. My kids going to Providence St. Mel's, I mean, you can't be more prepared than going to a school like that to take a standardized test. However, when they took the standardized test in the beginning, scores. I mean, my son was a valedictorian, and the other was in the top 6 when they graduated from that school. And yet, the first time they took that test to the whatever ACT or whatever, they had scores that didn't reflect how good of a student they were, maybe in the 20, 22 range. And I know it's lower on average for people of color, probably in the 14, 15, 16 range. But we had the resources to pay for them to do Kaplan.
Mhm.
Let's keep it real.
Yeah.
And guess what? Guess what happened to those scores? They ended up 30, 31, 32.
Mhm.
They were the same exact Black kids taking the test, but because they had resources, they were able to do better. And it's just that bias that is baked into the system. And you have to look in the mirror and say, is that fair that some kids have those resources and others don't? And it's not fair. So we have to do better, guys.
Well, Dr. Hampton, I actually fought to get $10 million in our state budget to actually allow for Kaplan to actually give free test prep to students at our public universities. $10 million. And so it's been helpful for our medical professionals. It's been helpful for our teachers. It's been helpful for lawyers. It's been helpful for realtors. And that is so important that we are able to have test prep. Test prep, I mean, I try to tell people that take the ACT and SAT, people that do perfect on those tests, they don't wake up and just take the test. They prepare.
Right. That's right.
But they can afford to take those test preps.
That's right.
It's very expensive. So we have to fight for those test preps and encourage our young people to not think that, or our professionals to think that they could do it without preparation.
That's right.
And that's why I fought for $10 million.
Yeah.
And we got it.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd like to, because I know we're over time, but there are a couple of things that I do want to add to the discussion. And some I may be criticized for, but I'm going to do it anyway. I actually looked at the numbers, and in 2024, 2025 academic year, 11.2% of all the students in medical colleges were African American. 11.2. So we're not getting people into medical school. That's part of the problem, regardless of what the school is. But that has something to do with where they are. And Dr. Hampton talked about.
Oh. Yeah, we lost him for a second. Okay. So what you think, Nikki? Should we start doing our hour until tomorrow, till next Monday?
Yes, as soon as you read that list I sent you.
Okay. You sent me. I'm sorry. That's me. Okay, let me see. Ooh, okay. So let's do it. Let me do it right now. So basically, I'm gonna do it right now. Okay. So I want to say hello to Sister Bonnie Smetley, Melanie Winston of Living Word Christian Center and Living Fresh Grocery Store. That sounds good, just reading that. Arlene Spencer, Dr. Travis, Karen Scott, Dwayne Banks, the men in the yeah, we love the men in the garage. I hope they're not in the garage with this cold weather, but God bless them. If they're still in that garage, I need to be doing what they doing. The Core Center, of course. And we always do them a shout out. Melanie Baloney and the staff at Cook County Neonatal. Deborah Williams Thurman. And we're sending prayers to Miss Thelma of the Congregational Church and the Congregational Church members. Mr. Childs, Kathy Johnson, Pastor Smith, President Sanders of Malcolm X, Amelia Ward, DeJean Brown, Regina Dupree, Pastor Kenneth Brown, Pam Blackman, Khalil Scott, Deborah Cozy Lane, I love that name, Dr. Erica Taylor, who I know, and Bobby Simmons, Tiffany Tillman, the principal of Melanie School, and a shout out to the Chicago's finest, Chicago Police Department, and one of the engine companies of the Chicago Fire Department, who are also watching as well. And of course, Bernard Clay of Introspect and Carl Brinson. So thank you, Nikki, for sharing that. And I hope that resonated with everybody. And I guess we'll proceed to our until next Monday. We'll start with Joe.
I'm going to pick up on something that Dr. Miller talked about early in the conversation. And he talked about investments. Make an investment in your health. It'll reap rewards moving forward. People don't invest in their health. They don't take time and spend time doing those things that we've talked about that allow you to have a healthy, fulfilling life. So make an investment in yourself and your health. Just eat right, move more, drink plenty of water. I mean, some things will keep you healthy.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And I completely concur. Dr. James Miller, until next Monday.
Well, I think we'll just sort of continue on what the general theme here is is looking at what we can do. I'm going to say this. As we have mentioned tonight, that there's a lot of bias in health. There's a lot of biases in everything in this country, and so being that being a situation and problem that we're going to have to deal with, we're going to have to also figure out what we can do despite those problems to overcome some of these things. And so if it ever get to the point that they're no longer a problem, that'd be great. But I think that we're going to have to understand that that's going to be a problem for a while, that most of us are probably not going to be dead before, will probably be dead before most of the biases that we're dealing with. Well, those things may change to something else, but there's going to be something that doesn't reflect what things should be. So for that reason, we're going to have to figure out what we can do. You, the individual, you, the community, we're going to have to figure out what can we do. When we look at the violence that's going on in our community, and I understand that there's a whole bunch of things that is triggering it, but we got to figure out what can we do to change those things that are killing us. There's a lot of stuff out there that's killing us, and we can do something about some of it.
Totally agree. And I'm not sure if Rep Ford is hearing me. If not, I
hear you.
There you go. Yeah, you can do your until next Monday. Any comments you'd like to share with the group before we wrap up?
Until next Monday, we must consider not only our prostate health, but we also have to consider our mental health and heart disease. Heart disease is a killer, and we have to understand that it's important to understand how heart disease is a killer in the Black community and how we could prevent it. I think it's preventable, and I think that early detection saves lives. Thank you.
Amen. And I'll say this before I make a comment. A coronary artery heart scan calcium score test, at least an Advocate where I work, is a $49 test. And it's no more than $100. That's probably the best screening test for heart disease. And it costs $50 to $100. So for anybody out there who's 35 and up, ask your doctor to provide a referral. Sometimes you don't even need a referral, but if you need one, please get that test, because that's still the number one reason why we leave this planet early. And we are seeing people at younger and younger ages. But my until next Monday is very simple. It's the same theme, which is what can we do? So if you have young folks in your life, you don't have to be a doctor like me. You don't have to be a leader in governmental work to do this. All you have to do is want to make a difference. So expose them to the idea that yes, you can become a doctor. Yes, you can become a nurse. Yes, you can become a pharmacist like my wife. Yes, you can do any of these things in healthcare. And the only thing that's going to be a barrier is you not having the knowledge of how to get there. And yes, money is a problem. Yes, MCAT prep is a problem. Yes, ACT prep is a problem, but it's a solvable problem. And you just have to have that until the system changes, that dog in you that's going to say, by any means necessary, I'm going to do this. And if you find yourself in front of a doctor, uh, you know, you say something very simple that's not very intimidating. Say to the doctor, if I have a question about healthcare because I'm interested, would you be okay if I ask you a question via email or live in your chart, whatever it is? Because guess what? That's an easier accept as opposed to saying, will you be my mentor? You're just saying, if I have a question, would you be comfortable answering a question? And that way you don't put them on the spot and commit to anything that's they may be reluctant to do. And then you'll have somebody to interact with. And truth be told, we us doctors like talking about ourselves and our profession anyway. So that's an easy way to kind of lay the foundation. So it's really a team sport. We have parents and community that's going to encourage our babies, but we also want our babies to be encouraged. Because guess what? When Shadur Sanders goes out there and has to play football, his dad is not out there with him. He's out there in spirit. He's out there emotionally, but he still has to be the one to throw the football, just like the great quarterback we have in Chicago. So that's what I would say is my until next Monday. And with that, Nikki, if you don't have any additional comments.
I have a really quick until next Monday. And my really quick until next Monday is, let's not forget to join Congressman Danny K. Davis along with State Representative LaShawn Ford and State Representative Camille Lilly and the American Heart Association for the National Wear Red Day. Remember, every first Friday in the month of February is observed for us to raise awareness for heart disease and strokes in women. We're asking all the participants to wear something red and to meet us at the Columbus Park Reflectory for a brief rally where we're going to have some doctors there, and we're just going to quickly talk about raising awareness on heart disease. So that's the first Friday in February. That is February 6th. More information is to come, but cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death for women, and this day aims at raising awareness and encouraging a preventive action. So join us all. Hashtag Wear Red. Well, as always.
And let me just thank all of us as we pursue and move towards next Monday. I'm going to do a little praying. Matter of fact, I'm going to pray that our president may get a heart before have a heart day. And so if he gets a heart, but I was really thinking as we closed out how fortunate all of us are. No matter what our backgrounds, where we came from, what it is that we've done that other people may not done. I'm sure Dr. Miller and I have done some things that other people have not done. But here we are. We've all got college degrees. We've all been to graduate school. We've all managed to teach whatever we've taught. And yet, we talk about all the problems and all the issues and how we may have gotten over, but we've gotten to where we are. So people ask me, what are you going to do when your term of office is up? And listening to the conversation, I said, maybe I'll just start teaching kindergarten children politics. Because I think we need to start teaching our children decision making, public decision making, as they become 4 or 5 years old. It's pretty obvious that morality alone is not going to get us fairness. I'm certain that a guy like President Trump says it's against the law to have black institute. You can't use black if you're going to try to get some federal money. It's against the law. And so I don't know what we're going to start calling the historical B colleges and universities. We got to call them something. But if you call them black, you may not be able to apply for a grant because it'd be against the law. How can you do that and say you got a heart? I really don't know. So I think I'm going to start trying to teach our kindergarten kids politics. I don't know how you have a discussion about problems, issues, and concerns without talking about politics. I just don't know how you do it. I don't. Every decision, whenever 2 or 3 people are trying to decide something, unless they all agree all the time, some politicking enters the conversation. Because everybody may not think the same way about whatever it is that you're talking about. So anybody who can tell me how to talk about decision making and no politics enter into it, I want to know about it. So please write me a note, send me an email, call me, leave a message, because I want to learn how to do that. Because I don't know. I don't know how to do that. And so I think part of what is missing is our equation of growing up and growing is that we don't learn enough about politics and the value of it and how it's used all the time. Even the cardinals, when they get ready to elect a new pope, they go through a real political thing in terms of deciding who's going to be the new pope. All of us will be waiting on the smoke, and there's no Catholicism in our faith orientation. And so we're just missing the boat if we don't teach ourselves politics and what politics mean. So for me, until next Monday, I'm going to be trying to think of how do I help teach our children politics. Until then, have a wonderful night. Stay warm. And if you don't stay warm, be as warm as you can get. Good night. Thank you all.